because he's had to grow up overseas, and he's enjoyed it. But I think he's just as ready as we are to come home now, so that's been great. All right, now, Dawn, I'm going to have you progress slowly through the next slides from 3. And so this just shows progression. It's just some of our family pictures as time went along. You can click it, please. Now, that was when he was quite little. Is it working? Yeah, then we've been in the island country since he was 3. So there he is with one of the island friends. And I especially like that one. The next one, please. That was the time that we were ministering in a village in the island country of Vanuatu. And we tried to take Jack with us in as many situations as we could. This one happened to be back in the United States when we were back on furlough one time and helping out in the school class, one of the Christian schools, and there's Jack helping Dad up at the front. Just another photo. So again, just him growing up. Carrying on. Dawn, please. The next one. I'm just quickly going through these ones. So you can see he's getting bigger. Okay, and the last couple of them, that maybe was a year ago at Christmas before COVID. And then this one was taken in in June. Just in June, some friends came to see us and we went downtown. So that's Pittsburgh. And you can see that Jack now, he's a fully grown. He looks more than 20 years old. And the next one shows us, of course, with the signs of the time with our mask on. So the reason that we have been involved in Christian ministry is because you got the same reason for you. There's salvation in no one else. There's no other name in heaven that has been given among men by which we must be saved. So that's the bedrock of what we've been doing. Okay, next one. The part of the world where we've been living is called Oceania. Next one. We believe that this, our little clicker may not work too well. We believe this is a strategic part of the world, actually. Many early missionaries, wait just a minute, you're going, no, you went too fast now. What happened? Anyway, many early missionaries came to the Pacific Island nations. And at that time, a lot of the nations were cannibalistic. So the missionaries brought hope with the gospel, and these cultures, they changed. So that many of them have a Christian heritage now. So when these island young people are trained properly, they themselves can become missionaries in their own right to other parts of the world. Because they have neutral passports, they're received in countries where the gospel is not maybe welcome, but these islanders can go. Now we, along with our teammates, were based in New Zealand. And then the next one, Dawn, and we specifically, that shows where Auckland is, and that's where we've lived for 17 years. And then let's see the next one. Okay, this one. Dawn and I, both as university students, became involved in the branch of Campus Crusade for Christ that was on our particular campuses. Now, we didn't know each other. Dawn was just from Pennsylvania, and he went to Penn State. And I'm from Alabama originally, and I went to Auburn University. So individually, we both were very impacted by the ministry there. It's an interdenominational organization, but just the biblical principles that we learned helped us to realize that the Christian life can really be practical. So again, just independently of one another, when we graduated from university, we made a decision to join with the ministry. And this just shows why, and still today, we work with university-age people. Because at that time is when people are the most available. And whether or not they're going to go into full-time Christian work or even into secular work, they're available to be trained, and before they have commitments to jobs and before they have their own families, and they really can get grounded in the Lord. So that is why we have worked with University Age. Let me switch my page. All right, yes, so this is our strategy to win people to Christ and then build the key ways we went about this in the island countries was to take in mission projects of young people, and we recruited various teams to help us to participate in the outreach. And then not only were the young people that we were sharing with impacted, but also the people who came along to be a part. This just shows, I was going to say this about Don. He's just excellently gifted in managing things and making detailed plans and working with people. So I think one of the big legacies he leaves in the Pacific is that he has introduced a lot of people to what missions is all about and trained them how to share the gospel clearly and boldly, no matter where they might be. So that just shows him, in particular, talking to and training one of the groups. At first, when we began taking projects to the island countries, we were using paper materials only. This one shows this part of our region is French speaking, and so this shows a bilingual paper material and also a DVD. And then if you'll go to the next one, Don. And then as time went on, they began to develop really great apps for your phone. And some of the pictures that I want to show next show people using these apps. But these are free. And this one is called the Jesus Film app. And on that, the Jesus Film is a film that's based on the Gospel of Luke, and it's been used worldwide. It also is translated into many different languages. This app gives you a chance to show little clips. You can show a friend a clip of the Jesus Film and ask them some questions. It gives you suggested questions to ask to bring up the gospel message. And also a part of this, there's this little creative short films that you can show. And we use those quite a lot with university students that give you a chance to ask questions and start spiritual conversations. So you guys can look on your phone, on your store, your app store, and download the Jesus Film app if you're interested in just see what it's all about. Okay? Next one. Another one that we were able to download is called God Tools. It's another free one. This is one where it has a explanation, like a gospel, 4-point gospel outline, and then it also talks about how to be filled with the Holy Spirit. And you can do it in various languages. You know, isn't it amazing now? Technology is like magic to me. Just how many things that have been used for good. I know there's a lot of bad things about the internet and all, but wow, lots of good things are going on as well. Okay, next one. One of our island guys, staff members, that's a training time. He was teaching the group how to use the God tools. All right, next. And again, one of the young ladies on one of our projects, you can see she's showing her phone to that fellow, and she would have been showing either a little clip from the Jesus Film or one of those creative short films to get him involved in a spiritual conversation. Right, now, this is one of the countries where we worked. It's called New Caledonia. Next one, Don. Show you a little bit about where that is in the Pacific region. And it's a small nation with big potential. It is French speaking, as I mentioned. So many countries go there that are French speaking. They go to New Caledonia for holidays. So there was just a variety. We'd go, this is one of the early pictures we took of our work there at the University of New Caledonia, but we would meet students from France and from Canada who were French speaking, from Africa. It was just quite amazing. All right, next. And this was one of the views from their campus. That was sort of nice when we go, and certainly the students enjoyed that. That's one reason the French people want to go. It's so beautiful in New Caledonia. One of our project groups that came, and we were on the bus headed to the university to share. Another one of our groups, and there's another one. Yeah, so we had a variety, as I said, and some of the islanders that we talked to. Here you go. Jack and I walking on the campus, sharing Christ with guys on campus. So we did try to involve Jack as much as possible, like I said, to teach him what we were doing. And then and other students our team share Christ with. Follow-up sessions, helping to ground the students in their faith. That's real important in what we do. This guy had heard the gospel message, and there with Dawn received Christ that day. Dawn talking with someone, and Jack, he had a chance to share with this young medical student who just had never heard the gospel whatsoever. So that was cool. Another one of our groups. And then we would just, the weather's nice, so we can approach students and ask them, if they have a few minutes that they can watch a film with us. And that was a particular day that a couple of us were talking with a bunch of students there. There you see there's the phone there, showing some little clip and introducing a conversation about Christ. Again. And then still using some paper materials as well, but definitely helped along by those apps. And some beautiful islanders. Sharing, but I also took along the paper little booklets, and sometimes that was more appropriate for people than the phone. And then another one of our groups that we took over. So just giving you a variety of Dawn. And as we could, drawing those people that we shared with into our fellowship groups and just becoming friends with them. So some of these are just practical. Eating together. And sharing music together. Okay, another land where we love to spend time is this little country called Vanuatu. And we spend a significant amount of time there. You can see where that is. In particular, a very important part of the University of the South Pacific was in this nation, in the capital city of Port Vila, called the Malice campus. This is a group of people from Korea that came down to do a project with us, and they became instrumental. We had some Koreans that stayed a whole year in Port Vila to help us with the ministry. We became good friends with this young couple. They're from India, and they're Hindu background, but they teach there in Vanuatu. So the islands draw quite an interesting group of people in, and we met them some years ago, and they've become really quite good friends. And I don't think they've come to Christ yet, but they certainly have softened towards the gospel message over these years. Krishna and Sauji, that's their name. Dawn just pictured with some of the students. They were helping him in this particular case that we were picking a place for a project for the students, I think. Okay. Dawn, again, just training sessions about what we're doing. Then we'd go out into the villages, and you can see that I think there she's probably sharing with a paper booklet, but I'm not sure. This girl has a telephone, so I don't know what they were doing at that particular time. And just also celebrations of when we get together for the conferences. Then Islanders are real talented, and they would come up with creative dances and skits and things. This is a group that came to Vanuatu from the United States, from the Colorado Christian University. We became connected to them, and Dawn was used in a great way to facilitate their bringing people over. And that we would have real open doors to go in. The faculty, Dawn would meet with the faculty, and they'd say, can you bring your people, and you can speak to our groups, and you can meet in small groups, you can meet individually. So it was a huge openness, and we were really thankful for that. Showing one of the young ladies cheering in a small group with these schoolgirls, and they would use sports for outreach as well. In Fiji, where the next one shows where Fiji is, we actually have some national staff members, and early on we brought some Americans in who stayed for a year to help to really kickstart the ministry there and to share Christ and bring good ministry DNA is what we would say. Right? But again, this is where the real work then is done. As people come to Christ, then get together with them for follow-up appointments, and then getting them in Bible studies and training them how to reach out to other people. And this weekly meetings happen in Fiji all the time. Just some fun pictures of students here. We have an outreach in Papua New Guinea. That's a little bit more distant from us, from New Zealand, but our dear friends on our team work there and still working there. These are a couple of young staff men that was on their campus there at University of Papua New Guinea. This was an Easter project. We've had some people join our staff from Papua New Guinea, and they are doing the ministry, so that's great. We've got outreach in the Kingdom of Tonga. Maybe you guys know somebody or have known somebody from Tonga. That's where it is, little country. But I don't have pictures. We have a couple staff in Tonga, but I don't have pictures of them. And then in Samoa, it's there. We have staff. This couple is the director and his wife. They're actually from Tonga, and they've gone as missionaries to Samoa. They've got a Fijian girl on their team, and they've recruited a couple of Samoan young men to help with the ministry there. From, I think, 2017 to 19, because 20 is when the dumb pandemic started, isn't it? So I think we must have finished by the end of the year 2019. We had what we called an Emerging Leaders Initiative. And we brought together periodically, like quarterly, the new staff from around the region. These happen to be our island staff that were involved in it, and I got to help. My pictures in there. And they did various things. We were trying to encourage the young staff to make make ministry their lifetime career. So it was this was the entire group from all across the region. So some are in there from New Zealand and Australia as well. That was exciting. That's a picture of an iceberg. You're asking, why is that in there? This is islands, it's Warman Islands. But the reason it's there is because, as you can see, an iceberg, it's only really a tiny portion of it that you can see on the top of the water, and the main part of it is underneath. Now, we feel like that our ministry and you guys are something like this. I mean, we're out there on the field, we get to work with students and do great things, fun things. But the reason we can is because people like you support us. And you're our backbone for what we do. You help us financially, you pray for us, and it's the reason that we do what we do. So we thank you for your faithful giving for our work. There's the thank you, and we do thank you, and then you make a difference. I think we're at the end of the pictures. Yep. Okay, so do you guys have questions then? Anybody want? Yeah.
Was there a lot of resistance from other denominations, or did you work together, or how did that work? Other missionaries that were in the area from other denominations or other beliefs?
We worked together when possible. I think particularly in Vanuatu, Don had connections. Jack and I we didn't travel as much as Don, but anyway, so that's why I referred to him. But he had connections with the navigators, and who else was that the main one that had missionaries?
Plenty of them. YWAM, Wycliffe, Prison Ministry. There are a lot of different groups that we partnered with.
Yeah, so it was not we weren't trying to fight against them, right? We were trying to work together with them. So that was helpful. Good question.
I have a question that has nothing to do with being a missionary. In the picture where you had the people with their certificates at the end of the year, some of the ladies, their dresses, was that batik do you know how the cloth was made in their dresses?
Probably it was. I know that they use a lot of cotton materials there just because it's hot most of the time. And yeah, I don't really know exactly
how they colored them or how they
or not. I'm not sure.
They use wax when they do batik.
Oh,
And
so see,
where the wax is, the dye doesn't stick to the cloth. That's what it looked like to me, but I didn't know.
Probably.
Okay.
They would do a lot of their own things there in the country, in Fiji, with the mainland, I guess you saw the ladies. Yeah,
Were most of the islands French speaking? How did you guys communicate? You guys bilingual or?
most of the islands were not, but we were in charge of, in particular, New Caledonia. We worked on learning French, the three of us did. We had limited success, unfortunately. But on the university campus there in New Caledonia was our main French country, where we did outreach. A lot of the students could speak some English, and then our little films were able, they had them in French as well. I mean, yeah, within the app, they've got these various languages. So we would do our best to just communicate the best we could. And some of the people we bring on project were French speakers. So that we have a particular friend who came and helped us a number of times, who had been a French teacher, and she came and was extremely helpful. So, good question.
But I would sometimes use bilingual materials with English on one side and French on the other. And I would just basically have them read the French, and of course I would know what the content was, and they would lead themselves to the Lord. It was amazing. So even without hardly any French, we always saw, 20, 30 people come to Christ on these projects. And it was just, it's all God doing it. You know, it's like I was trying to illustrate this morning with Jonah. Sometimes God works despite us or in spite of us, and all he wants us to do is show up. And yet we would always find people who God had prepared ahead of time for the message, and we just happened to be there at the right time to watch them come into faith with him.